do I? A private chat. Okay. Help, guys. Is anyone there? So I'm trying something new today for my YouTube live screen. My YouTube live weekly Q&A. I am working out to see if I can do a screen share. So I might record it just in case. Let's just record this. And then, oh, wait, no, I can't record it until I upgrade. So this is sort of a practice weekly Q&A with screen sharing. If, you know what I might do? I might go on my phone and see. Let me just have a little, I wonder if that's going to, okay. We'll wait. Hey, Min. Okay, I've got my mini here. Let me see what I can do here. So just having a little fiddle around with what I've got is a live stream. And I've always wanted to work out how to live stream on my weekly Q&As. And I think I may know, but let me just see if anyone can see me. I might go into, let me just have a look into my channel, actually. Let me just save this. This is pretty good. Oh. Let's see if I can find me. Okay, I think I'm here. Can I hear myself? Is this working? Okay, I think I'm here. Oh, there we go. I'm here. Is this working? It's a little bit slow. Okay, I think I'm here. Oh, there we go. I'm here. Is this working? It's a little bit okay, I'm going to practice while I'm here, guys. There we go. I'm here. Is this working? It's a little bit okay, I'm going to practice while I'm here, guys. There we go. I'm here. Is this working? It's a little bit okay, I'm going to practice while I'm here, guys. There we go. I'm here. Is this working? It's a little bit let me see. I'm going to turn this off. Let me unmute myself. Let me see. How do I unmute it? I'm going to turn this off. Oh my gosh. Let me unmute myself. Let me see. How do I unmute it? I'm going to turn this off. Oh my gosh. Let me unmute myself. Let me see. How do you turn the volume off? I know there's lots of noise here, everybody, guys. Let me just see if I can see this. How do you turn the volume off? I know there's lots of noise here, everybody, guys. Let me just see if I can cool. Excellent. See this. It's working. I just wanted to check on my phone, so there was a bit of noise there, if the live stream working. So I just wanted to give you an update. What I'm doing today, it's a bit of a practice run with our weekly Q&A on using live stream so I can share my screen. But being the most not tech savvy person, it took me a little while to work out what I'm doing. So if there's a few little mishaps and maybe some things aren't working, then that's because I don't know what I'm doing here. Anyway, I will share my screen in a moment, but what I wanted to do is firstly just say welcome to our weekly Q&A. This is also will go to Facebook. I actually might see if I can stream to Facebook as well in the future here. So I'm just using a software at the moment where we can stream my screen share. So I'll do that in a moment. But if you have any questions that you would like to ask me, pop them in the chat and I will get I will go in and answer them for you if I can. If not, I'm more than happy to do a little bit of research for you and find out how I can help. So I'll just wait for some people to pop on, and then I will go into screen share. And explain what I am doing. Okay, so I'm just waiting for a few people to pop on. I'd like to say a big warm welcome to all our new Facebook group members. It's lovely to have you in the group. I am in Facebook jail at the moment, so it's not as active as I normally am. I've got another 21 days or something, or 20 days, and I'll be back in as my normal self, Karen Gracie Equine Success. It's a little bit hard when I'm in Facebook jail because I can't do anything on my laptop. Everything has to be done on my phone. And that's a little bit difficult when it comes to sharing content. So I'll just have a sip of coffee and wait for some people to pop on. So let's see if this works. And I go to screen share. So can you see this, guys? I'm not sure, though, how I can. You can't see all of it. How do I do that? So this is really going to be a little bit of a play around. Oh, what have I done? I've lost it. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a play around. Q&A, me trying to work out how to do everything, because once I can screen share, this is very exciting. Let me just move myself over here and get back out what I wanted to share with you. That. Okay. I might. I wonder if I can. So once again, if you've just popped on, it's a bit of a practice run here with screen sharing. I'm trying to work out how to do this. But once I work it out, it's going to be really cool. Oh, sorry, you can see my really messy screen. How do I do this? Let's just... you should see how, look at everything that I have on my screen, hey? We'll stop screen sharing and let's just do this again and do a window. And this is the window I want. I wanted to share my flow chart, the retraining system that I have, drag to move. Oh, so how do I... Except I'm not really sure how to be able to move it. Oh, yeah, there we go. Except it's not really. Okay, let me just. Make it a little bit. Oh, it's so hard when you're not tech savvy, hey? There we go. So I'm not sure if you can see this. If you're in the chat, can you let me know if you can see the screen share of the holistic system of Off The Track Retraining Success? This is me trying to learn how to do screen share, guys. And I wonder how you... Okay. Anyway, I think I've got it. Okay. That's maximizing, but we want... So what I wanted to do is just go through today, because I didn't have a question for my Q&A, and just go through the system that I've created for retraining off the track thoroughbreds. And it is what I call the holistic system of off the track thoroughbred retraining success. And it's a process that you go through. So what I noticed with a retraining off the track thoroughbreds is a lot of people firstly weren't aware of the fact that off the track thoroughbreds come from a completely different environment and lifestyle and life than most other horses, excluding other racehorses like your pacers and your trotters. But they live a very, very different life than your general pony club horse, your warm bloods and sport horses and things like that. They enter an industry, the racing industry, very young. Basically, they enter in when they're yearlings, and they basically live the racing lifestyle until they retire off the track, and that's when we get them. So if you're taking on an off the track thoroughbred straight out of racing, you're taking on a horse that's experienced one life, and that is a racing life. Now, there's so many different aspects of the racing life that one, racing life is very, very demanding on the horses. Two, they are trained differently than what we expect of them in our equestrian and pleasure disciplines. And they have quite often a lot of physical and psychological like issues that do need rehabilitating. So a lot of people come into problems when they take on an off-the-track thoroughbred. One, not being aware of it, not being aware of the fact that rehabilitation is quite often involved, and two, not being aware of the fact that when it comes to training and riding, they're ridden very differently in racing. They are ridden where they habituate to a lot of pressure, a lot of bit pressure, and they work their body in a completely different way than what we're wanting in our show jumping and dressage and even trail riding and that. They're trained for speed and endurance. They're trained to race. They're trained to win races. And having them nice and light to your rein aids and your leg aids is not a priority. They are very full of energy quite often because they're fed a very high grain, high concentrate diet. They need this to be able to get the muscle energy and the fuel for racing. And a lot of the time when handling them, it's about just control and maintain, having control of them. They don't need to be educated to being, very light to the responses and standing relaxed while being hosed and standing relaxed while being saddled and bridled and having jockeys legged up and track riders legged up. It's about managing an equine athlete that is very, very full of energy quite often, and that is trained to race. So when it comes to your on the ground handling, they will often be they often won't stand still. One symptom is that they can quite often pull back. It's a very highly adrenalized environment, the racing environment, and you have to also too look at the fact that we're working with a flight animal. So horses are they're actually the most fearful of all our domesticated animals. And they're naturally very fearful. Their go-to response is their flight response. And then we're putting them in an environment that is so demanding that quite often triggers the fear and flight response in them. And what a horse practices, especially if they're experiencing fear and practicing the flight response, they remember. So they'll go back and redo that behavior and that action. Horses have an incredible memory. They remember every experience in absolute detail, and we can't delete those memories, but what we can do is retrain and teach them new associations and new memories and new experiences. This takes good retraining, and it takes quite a while. It's not something, if you're retraining an off-the-track thoroughbred, 8 weeks isn't going to do it. Especially you need to look at too how long your off-the-track thoroughbred has been in racing. Have they had quite an extensive race career? In saying that, even if your off-the-track thoroughbreds only had a short race career, they're still going to only know racing because they enter into racing as yearlings. So they're still not going to have any other understanding unless they've been retrained correctly and already entered into other disciplines like equestrian or pleasure. They're only going to know racing life. So that's number one. When you take on an off-the-track thoroughbred, straight off the track without any retraining, and be aware too, if they have been retrained, you want to make sure that it's been correct retraining. They're only going to know one thing, and that's to be a racehorse. And that comes with quite a lot of negative associations, often because of the demands of racing, and some stresses and some anxiety can often be displayed in the horses. And this comes out in physical health issues as well as psychological. So this is why I put my chart together. So it's like a flow system, a flow chart of the steps to take when retraining your off-the-track thoroughbred. And that's what I've got here. I will share. I don't know if you can see my little cursor in the screen share. I think you can. So we first of all, we get our off-the-track thoroughbred. And if you don't know where to start, this flowchart is a really good place to at least understand. I've got here, you can see in the middle here, stage 1 of the retraining process, and then you go to stage 2 once you have completed stage 1. So what do we have in stage 1 of retraining off the track thoroughbred? First of all, we need to look at, we'll go up here, our physical rehabilitation and well-being. So off the track thoroughbreds have come from a very demanding industry physically. When they race, they're racing to their full capacity. This quite often will come with, injuries are sustained. They may have a tendon injury. They definitely get muscle sore. You quite often will notice with thoroughbred racehorses, they're built and depending on how they're trained, you've got your good trainers and your not so good trainers. They can be very rock hard in their muscles. They don't always use their body in a healthy way. And if anything, even if they're using their body in a healthy way, they're still using it in a different way, and that they're trained to gallop and gallop fast. So they're more in a horizontal position. But their body comes down where they're stretching out with their front legs and bringing their hind legs underneath them. So it's a completely different way of using their body than they're using in our show jumping and dressage. We want them to be more in a self-carriage posture where they're carrying more weight on their hind end, where in racing they're carrying more weight on their front end, their forelegs and their shoulders. So building up their hindquarters and their hind end so that they're using their body where there is self-carriage takes a long time. It takes correct retraining and also a correct retraining program and time. Like if we're going to the gym, it takes time for us to develop strength and fitness. And it's the same with our horses. So we're looking here in our green circle, we've got physical rehabilitation and well-being. So we're looking at physical rehabilitation, so addressing any injuries. Quite often off the track thoroughbreds may have some muscle tears. So I always recommend getting a vet check, having a really good vet check done on your horse when you take them on, getting an assessment like a full trot up, flexion tests, just to make sure that there's no underlying lamenesses, or if there is, you know what to address. And a body worker is always really good. Thoroughbred racehorses put a lot of demanding work and wear and tear on their sacroiliac area, so the sacroiliac joint. And we have to remember too, they're entering racing young, so they're still skeletally immature and they're growing. So we need to be aware that there may be some joint issues, inflammation and that around your sacroiliac area. So if you're wanting your horse to carry more weight on their hind end, you have to make sure that they're not carrying any pain. So that's where the physical rehabilitation and well-being comes in, addressing any health issues that your horse may have, any lameness or injuries that need some healing and time, and also looking at getting a body worker out, making sure there's no inflammation, checking the skeletal system, making sure everything is in alignment, and addressing old muscle tears. So that consists of quite a few things, but including what I said is a vet check when you initially purchase or have your Off The Track Thoroughbred, and then looking at body work and either equine chiropractic, osteopathic, and massage. And 2, under physical rehabilitation, is addressing ulcers. So your gastric ulcers is really important to address. Nearly all thoroughbred racehorses have gastric ulceration. They're on a very high concentrate, high grain diet, and more than often they do not have enough of the forage long stem fiber that continually needs to go through their system for a healthy digestive system. So addressing ulcers is really, really important, because if your horse has gastric ulceration, then they are going to be in pain. So that's also a number 1 step that I recommend to take before you start any retraining. So once we've looked at the physical rehabilitation, we then go to, I'm going the opposite direction in my little circle here. I haven't brought it up, but I've got a more expanded version of the flow chart here, but where I go into the extra details of each area. Here is psychological rehabilitation. So psychological, one, being aware that your Off The Track Thoroughbred has come from a very different environment than what they are now entering into with racing. They have most likely been 24-hour stabled, so they're they're quite often inside in stables or even outside, but they're 24-hour stabled or yarded. They don't live out in big paddocks. They're also individually stabled or yarded as well. So you've got a bit of an issue there I talk a lot more in detail about detachment. They have been isolated. So even though they have a lot of horses around them, they are still isolated when it comes to tactile touch with other horses. And also even with tactile touch with humans, they're not mollycoddled like our pony club and our pleasure horses. So the environment, a racing environment, can be very rushed and it's very routine orientated. So they have a lot of different handlers, quite often a lot of different strappers and stable hands and riders. So every rider and trainer has a different way of handling horses, and this can be very confusing for horses in general. They need a very clear, consistent, everything needs to be very clear and consistent with it when it comes to handling and training and riding. And this is often not what happens when horses have multiple different handlers, riders and strappers. So that causes some issues and some confusion when it comes to being handled, and a confusion when it comes to training. So you might get issues like pulling back when they're being tied up. They may dislike touch. They don't get, as I said, it's more of they're a workhorse. So when they're being touched and saddled and bridled, it's all to do with a work focus more than being sort of pampered and nurtured. Many racehorses live some, they're very well looked after, but in saying that, it's still not their natural environment, and they don't have that interaction with other equines. Some stables, they can touch each other. I know a stable I used to work at where the horses can reach each other over the wall of their yard, so that's really good. So if they're going to be individually stabled, being able to have the ability for them to touch each other is very, very helpful when it comes to nurturing that need for social contact with them. A lot of stables don't, so that's something you consider when you take your Off the Track Thoroughbred. They may be aggressive to other horses, they may be very timid, and they may dislike touch from yourself as well. So that's part of what I call is psychological rehabilitation, and is part of the process of rehabilitating them for their life after racing. And down here on our third circle, the pink one, is what I call principles of OTTB success. So that is some equitation science principles that I go into. I won't share them today because that will go for it'll go for quite a long while. I can share that in another live, but there's a set of principles that I recommend following in all aspects of horse training, and in particular retraining off the track thoroughbreds, that keeps us on track and keeps us working with the nature of the horse and in an ethical way, so that we're nurturing the horse instead of causing any stress and anxiety. So if we're not working with the horse's innate nature and how they learn, then we are going to be causing them stress and anxiety. So having some principles to follow when it comes to working around horses and retraining them is really important. So I go into all of this in my online course, but I'll also go into it in another Q&A if you would like me to, so let me know. So once we've done rehabilitation, we've also got hoof balance and rehabilitating their feet in this here as well. We've got stage 1. So it's all to do with spelling your horse, being aware that they've come from a completely different industry than what they're entering into in life after racing, whether it be pleasure or equestrian, and being aware that this is going to take time and rehabilitation to have them be in optimal health mentally and physically to enter into the retraining process. So once we've completed stage 1, and stage 1 includes, I also recommend having your Off the Track Thoroughbred have a good spell before you bring them into a retraining. So 3 to 6 to 12 months if they're recovering from an injury without any training. And this also gives you the opportunity to be able to address the stage 1, which is your physical, psychological rehabilitation. So we've addressed stage 1, just say it's 6 months to 12 months, maybe even 3 months, depending on your individual horse. We're now ready to go to stage 2 of the retraining process. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee before I move on to stage 2. And in stage 2 is I've got my little puppy here sitting on my leg. So in stage 2, this is where we actually start re-educating our Off the Track Thoroughbred. So there's 2 parts of stage 2. First of all, we are going to retrain our Off the Track Thoroughbred using Equitation Science Principles. And I go into all of this in the retraining and the re-education phase. And we start with in-hand work first. And once we have retrained our Off the Track Thoroughbred in their in-hand work with the basic responses, we then go up into under saddle work. So this is all in the re-education training phase of stage 2. And this can take quite a while, depending on where your Off the Track Thoroughbred is. But this is all to do with retraining the basic responses and retraining with what I use is using Equitation Science Principles. So it's going back with what we normally do if we're starting a horse off fresh that hasn't been educated to under saddle yet, is we teach them the basic responses of stop and go and turn. With Off The Track Thoroughbreds, they have, as I said before, habituated to a lot of pressure. Bit pressure. They quite often will be on the forehand. They use their body in a completely different way. They're not going to be in self-carriage. So we need to teach them to be light in their basic responses. So rein pressure, your stop aid, turning, they will often lean. They won't turn properly because they, bending laterally is not important in racing. Turning, to have rein control, but to have them in self-carriage where they're stepping out correctly with their shoulder is something Off The Track Thoroughbreds they'll lean in. They sometimes go around. You won't find them nice and supple and bending through their rib cage at all. They don't do that in racing. They're working around a large track. As I said, they're trained for speed and endurance. They're not trained for nice and supple lateral flexion. And this is going to take time to achieve this. And before you even want to ask for a nice bend through their body, they need to be retrained in the basic responses of, first of all, being able to give to the bit instead of leaning into the bit and leaning into this bit pressure. You need to teach them to give to bit pressure and what I call in self-carriage. That you're not going to be able to achieve any nice supple bending or turning or flexion until they're taught to give to the bit in itself. I'll go through all this training. I've got some really good training come up. It's quite a lot of work for me. In the meantime, you can find retraining the basic responses, anything to do with equitation science. I have some links to that in some books and also a website. While you're waiting for me to get my training out, I also have some YouTube videos. But this is what we call stage 2, the re-education process. And part of the re-education process is not only re-educating our Off The Track Thoroughbred to be light in their basic response, to train them to light aids and clear aids of your stop and go and your turn and yield, but we need to be aware of ourselves. And this is why I've added part of stage 2, rider position and biomechanics. I just uploaded a YouTube video yesterday it's just a little exercise of standing in your 2-point seat. I know it seems really simple, but honestly, truthfully, before I started riding track work, and I mean, I don't know, it was just me. People might be able to do this, but I really struggled. This was a long while ago. I struggled with maintaining a 2-point seat without leaning on the withers and that. And I popped this video up because it's a really good test to see whether you're in self-carriage yourself as a rider. We're training our horse to be in self-carriage and not to lean on the bit. But we need to make sure ourselves that we are in self-carriage. We're not depending on the reins, that we're balanced over our center of balance, because if we're not balanced, we're going to put our horse off balance. With Off The Track Thoroughbreds, they're already off balance. And this is something difficult when it comes to taking on an Off The Track Thoroughbred. And the whole old school, and I don't say don't take on an Off The Track Thoroughbred if you're a novice. Most of the time, most people can't afford a schoolmaster. And who wants a schoolmaster? I mean, I don't know. I love Off The Track Thoroughbreds. I never had a schoolmaster. I had one pretty wild little Off The Track Thoroughbred, and I had no idea what I was doing way back then. But it's really good to have the understanding that with a schoolmaster, with an educated horse, you have a horse, if they've been correctly trained, whether it be an Off The Track Thoroughbred or a dressage horse or warm blood, and this in itself is hard to find because there's a lot of different training methods out there, and a lot of horses are not in self-carriage. But just say you have a beautiful schoolmaster that's in self-carriage, they're going to be able to, you can work on your position and your riding, and you're going to be able to work on your own position without worrying about then having to teach the horse to be in self-carriage. With Off The Track Thoroughbreds, we have both roles. So we have to teach our Off The Track Thoroughbred correct posture and self-carriage, but quite often we have to teach ourselves that as well. So it's difficult. It's not easy because we're working with a horse that is not in self-carriage, and then we are their coach that have to, we have to teach them to be in self-carriage, and quite often we have to work on our own position. I'm always working on my own position. I'm very passionate. I love it, actually, being through a lot of difficulties myself with my own riding position and balance. If anything, I was a very stiff, correct, the whole old school shoulders back. I think I talked about that in our last live. Sorry, I've got a sore talking about posture. I've got an old track work injury, and my shoulder's sore. I was very naughty. I missed an appointment this morning. I just looked at a notice. I missed an ultrasound and x-ray on my shoulder. But anyway, I'll reschedule that. So rider position and biomechanics, this is really important, and you can do it while you're retraining your Off the Track Thoroughbred. It doesn't have to be perfect. Everything to do is with basics, and I've got some wonderful exercises. It's, once again, building courses and training is quite a lot of work for me because I am not the most digitally savvy person, but I'm learning. But it's going, I can't wait to share it because it's really beautiful work as well, because it's not hard, but it's to do with working more in a yoga way. But I won't go into that. I'm getting a little bit off track. In the stage 2, we're retraining our Off the Track Thoroughbred to be light and in self-carriage, and light and responsive, carry their weight on their hind end once we've taught them to be light to the aids. But then we come back to our rider position and biomechanics. We need to make sure that we are in self-carriage. We are not leaning on the reins. We have a correctly fitted saddle that is putting us in a position where we can be balanced over our feet. And also this exercise in the YouTube video, just check with yourself. Are you in balance? Can you go into your 2-point seat and not tip backwards and not tip forwards? I couldn't. I mean, I've been riding track work for 18 years, and I did show jumping and dressage and starting that again now. And so I have a really strong core. So you can be aware that, okay, I'm retraining my Off the Track Thoroughbred, but I need to be aware of my own rider and position as well. You can do a lot of exercises on the ground that will help this. And also, it's not about forcing yourself in a position, but being aware of your center of balance. And if anything, sometimes it's about releasing tight muscles and having more of the yoga perspective on it. But I won't go, I'll start rambling, but just be aware that in stage 2, we're not only looking at retraining our Off the Track Thoroughbred, but being aware of our own riding position and balance, and making us a light and balanced weight for our horse to carry. Now, this is a forever. I mean, this is anything to do with horses, and training is really a lifelong learning process, and little steps forward. A lot of track work riders aren't balanced. A lot of track work riders lean on the horses. Well, the horse leans on the bridle anyway. So don't think, oh, I'm not balanced, I'm no good for my Off the Track Thoroughbred. Whether it's track work, show jumping, dressage, you look at a lot of dressage riders, show jumping riders, they're not in balance. So I was even looking at a rider in the Olympics, and you could see that you could see the strength this rider was using. So this is about something that I love. I love a beautiful riding position. I love a classical riding position. And that's something that I teach, because not only is it going to be lovely for your horse and easier for your horse to carry, but it's also going to be easier for you, good for your body. If you have lower back pain or anything like that, making sure that you're in a healthy posture is going to help with any pains that you may suffer as a rider. I had terrible pains, terrible lower back pain, and I was in so much pain riding when I was the first few years of riding track work. And it was only when I was started working with the Alexander technique in my own posture off the horse, that I started to really improve on the horse. I haven't had any back pain. I never get back pain or any pain riding horses, and that's been for like over 15 years. Or no, maybe I started off, so maybe 12 years. The only pain that I have is old injuries, just off the horse. But this is part of stage 2. Retraining our horse and training ourselves, being aware of our riding position and making ourselves as best and as in balance as possible. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a framework to look at where my system of retraining and Off the Track Thoroughbred. I approach it in a holistic way, and I'm very excited to be able to learn how to screen share. I hope it's worked. I really do, because I know I've been a little bit, oh, what have I done here? Am I here? Okay. So yeah, look, if it's a little bit all over the place, I apologize. I have just downloaded this software this morning because I thought that I was Googling everything, and it said you needed 1,000 subscribers before you can screen share. But then I found this software called Restream. So I'm hoping this has worked, and you can see my holistic system flow chart. And I created this a couple of years ago so that we can have a framework to follow, so that there's no gaps. A lot of the retraining with Off the Track Thoroughbreds is just focused on this. Can you see my, I don't think you can see it, can you? Wait, I'll go here. It's focused on, let me move it over here. Can you see? Oh, yeah. It's focused on just on the re-education, what they call retraining. None of the stage 1 is focused. None of the ulcers aren't addressed. Any psychological issues that the horse, thoroughbred racehorses display a lot of, well, I'm not going to say a lot, but they can display some anxiety and stress more than often, because it's very demanding racing. So quite often when retrainers take on Off the Track Thoroughbreds, they go straight into the education, and none of this is addressed. If your horse has ulcers, they are not going to be comfortable. They're going to be in pain in any type of physical exercise. So they're not going to, be optimally successful. Horses are very stoic. They hide pain because this is natural for them, because they're a prey animal. If they show weakness or if they show pain, they're vulnerable to prey in the wild. This is an intrinsic part of their nature. And you get these people that, I think sometimes people think, oh, my Off the Track Thoroughbred, he's lame, and he's like they're sensitive, they can't handle pain. This is so not true. It's a bit of it's a bit of a fable that Off the Track Thoroughbreds are sensitive and you need to wrap them up in bandages and that. If anything, they are really, really tough. They are a sensitive breed. They are an incredible breed. They learn really fast, but they're also, I find them quite an intuitive type of horse. They pick up on emotions, but they are tough horses. Racing is very, very tough for them. I know. I've worked with them in racing for 18 years. And horses do hide pain. So just because your horse is not showing any gastric ulcer symptoms does not mean that they don't have them. It's amazing. Some horses can be glowing in their coat. They can be working really well, and they still scope. One horse scoped really, I think it was grade 3 gastric ulcers, which is just squamous. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Squamous ulcers, as well as glandular ulcers. So please don't just presume if your thoroughbred is not showing gastric ulcer symptoms that they don't have them. It's, if anything, just getting them scoped is really important if you can. So I might leave it there, and I'm hoping that my screen share has worked. And I wanted to introduce my this is my system of what I've created. I would love to know what you think about it. Does it make sense to you? Please let me know if this is something that would help you retrain your off-the-track thoroughbred. I do go into a more detailed format and break it up, but I've created this system to be able to branch off so that we can address every individual aspect of the training process in itself, which is important because with horses, I mean, it's a minefield, isn't it? Equine nutrition, hoof balance, training. I mean, every aspect you go into, it just goes down a rabbit hole. I mean, look at hoof balance in itself, and that's important with off-the-track thoroughbreds because their feet, quite often they'll have the long toe, low heel, and just bringing their whole foot back into balance, which has been a process for me with my horses, has been a learning curve. And also too, I mean, I'm barefoot now, but just learning the whole hoof balance is an aspect in itself. So we can just seriously, in every one of these little circles and part of the framework is just, it goes off in itself. There's so much to learn with retraining your off-the-track thoroughbred horses in general. There's a lifetime of it and more. So hence the reason I wanted a bit of framework to follow. Every horse is going to have their individual areas that may need more focus than others. So I might leave it there, but I would love to know what you think of the retraining system that I've created. And yeah, let me know if it makes sense, and I will give you some more information on this in more lives. As I said, it's in my future trainings as well as my Kickstart roadmap as well. And yeah, I'll leave it there. I'm very excited about being able to screen share. Excuse the fact that I think at the beginning I shared, you should see my screen. I seriously, sometimes it's, you know, they say your living environment and your house is a reflection of your inner your inner being. My screen on my laptop, I keep everything. I have a heap of, I love learning and studying everything equine. So I've got like about 100 PDFs just for fun. Let me see if I can do something here. Okay, this is just going to be for fun. Excuse if I go, wonder how if I go, if I turn this off, maybe if I, okay, you're going to get, oh, that's gone. Okay, here I am back. Now let me see if I can share. This is just playing around, guys. I wonder if you could you see my screen? I'll show you my screen just for fun. Look at behind that. Seriously? Can you see that? Let me just see. Look, look at my screen. Look at that. That is folders, horses. I've got portfolios. I've got lumps on. Look at that screen. I mean, does anyone have a laptop screen like that? Let me just get rid of this. That is, I've got, look at my screen. That's crazy. You can see I'm not the most tech savvy person. But I've got so much. Look at it. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm getting excited now just showing you my screen. But I've got this one. I've got a heap of ebooks. So this is a wonderful ebook. Let me open this. I wonder if I can share. Oh, geez. Okay. I'm going to see if I can share this. Can I share? Okay. I think I'm just going to share I'm sharing my entire screen, but can you see this? Yeah, so I'm sharing my entire crazy screen, guys. I've got this wonderful ebook, Suffering in Silence. I think I spoke about that in one of my lives. It's really just, this just goes into all saddle fit. Johann Schleich, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book. So I'll just show you some of my crazy. I might actually go out of. Let's just toggle this off. I'm just playing. How do I do that? Wait a sec. Let me get rid of this. I wanted to just see. Can I? Okay, so get rid of that. Get rid of that. Look at my crazy screen. Oh dear. Where am I? Have I lost you? Oh no, you're there. Let me just see if I can. I'll share this. Sorry, I'm just playing now. Now, if I screen share, no, that's not it. I don't know what I've done there. Share screen. Okay, I'm going to share a window. I'm going to share this. Share. Can you see this? This is, I might move myself over here. So you can see this is a really cool ESI, Equitation Science International little poster. And let's test self-carriage. I'm just going to talk about this just because I'm playing around with screen share, guys. Self-carriage means that the horse maintains its own rhythm, line, and posture without the help of constant maintenance of the rider and handler. So for an example, what self-carriage is if you're leading your horse and he's drifting left and right, or like, for instance, when I was working with Tommy yesterday, my big boy Tommy, he shied and just pushed right into me. He's a big horse. He's a bit of a handful. I've had quite a lot of health issues with him, so I haven't been able to continue his retraining. And that's a sign of not your horse being in self-carriage. So your horse is in self-carriage when he maintains rhythm, either in hand or under saddle when leading, and maintains line. So if you're leading your horse and he's going straight, not drifting left or right, he's in self-carriage. And if he maintains posture, well, this is an interesting one, and I find a lot of people find difficulty with this, but maintains posture, so testing self-carriage with posture. So he's not leaning his head out or leaning against the rein. But and this takes a long while to maintain posture, is what we call it's past rhythm, but maintaining posture is all to do with self-carriage and strength of posture, and you're not going to maintain posture. So maintain posture is if your horse, let's say you're riding and you give the reins and they'll either stretch down but they don't drop down onto the forehand. You still feel like they're in self, or if you give with the reins and they go on the forehand and get heavy, so you know that they're not in self-carriage then. So just because I'm playing with screen share, I thought I'd share this. So here we go. Test self-carriage in rhythm. Release reins and leg contact for 2 to 3 strides and see if your horse quickens or slows. Okay, so if you release your reins and your horse slows down, they're not in self-carriage. If you release the reins and leg contact, so release the reins and leg contact and they quicken up, okay, they're not in self-carriage, they're rushing. So that was my little first off the track thoroughbred, used to be very rushy. So the second test is test self-carriage of line. Release rein contact for 2 to 3 strides away from an arena edge or fence. If your horse drifts, he's not in self-carriage, so you use the same rein to straighten and test again. So when you release your reins, does your horse maintain a straight line or do they drift? And you have to remember self-carriage is not only to do with re-education, but also making sure, going back to stage 1 of the retraining program, that they are physically healthy, there's no inflammation, pain, no soundness issues, and you're retraining your off-the-track thoroughbred to carry themselves in a healthy posture. And test self-carriage for posture. Release rein contact for 2 strides. Changes in outline can often suggest other problems, such as posture outline is difficult to be maintained naturally, so they've been forced in too deep or short round outline. The contact is too strong and is actually maintaining rhythm. So that is typical for off the track thoroughbreds. They continually have bit pressure. They actually lean into the bit. So it's like they're depending on the bit pressure and the contact to balance themselves. And that is quite common in thoroughbred racehorses. So teaching them to not depend on the reins for balancing themselves is part of retraining your off the track thoroughbred, and is a process. It's going to take a while for them to teach, to learn that, not only physically teaching them to carry themselves in a different posture, a more healthy posture, but also training them to give to pressure. And addressing problems and repeat until outline is maintained for 2 strides. So that's all part of the retraining process. And we'll just have a little look at a quote that Dr. Andrew McLean says. You can say you have trained a bird to sit on your arm, but until you let go of its wings, you cannot know for sure. So that's a nice little quote there. Anyway, I'm going to leave the live to this because I've been talking for about an hour, and I've been playing with screen share. Let me know if you like screen share. Let me know if this has been helpful. And as I said, I didn't have a question for this week's Q&A, so I thought I would do this. So I will leave it there and see you in the group. And I will see you for next week's Q&A. As I said, I'm in Facebook jail at the moment for another 20 days. So I can't be as active in the Facebook group as I normally am. I will post this only because I can't access it on my, I don't know how, my pseudo profile doesn't come up on my laptop. So I only have access to my Facebook group on my phone, and it's difficult to share contact just through the phone. But I will share the replay of this live in the Facebook group either tonight or tomorrow. And I will see you in the Facebook group for next week's Q&A. And if you have any questions, if you've liked the screen sharing, and if you like the system that I've created, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.